Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to have a lesson about angles. So angles, it is a union of two rays with a common endpoint known as vertex. Technically, the rays could be a segment. Just make sure they have a common endpoint, or any straight line have common endpoint. Now, let's demonstrate how does it work. For example, this is now your first ray and another ray. So you can see. So let me have now an arrowhead. So as you can see, this is now what we call the common endpoint, and this is now what we call now the vertex. And this is the first ray, ray 1, and then this is ray 2. So this could have here common endpoints. So it could be a segment, but however, normally when you were in elementary, they put it array so that they would know the direction. The angle is the measure of the openness of between the two ray. So this could have a measure. So we can have now, for example, this is now A, the measure or the opening, that would be the angle. So that is the angle. Okay, now let's continuing now. Now at this point, we are now working on the name of the angle. So technically, there are a lot of ways to name an angle. First one is the vertex. Number 2 is 3 letters. And then a symbol within the angle. Now, as you can see, let's have this one. Let me just change color of the pen. You can technically write angle B because B is the vertex. Remember? Okay, if B is the vertex, that's how you can do. There are two ways on how to, by using 3 letters. You can name that as angle ABC. You can see this is now angle ABC. The first letter going to the second letter and then third letter. Now, you can name that as well by angle CBA or vice versa. So as you can see, you can have now starting with C going to B to A. Now, by the symbol, which is what's inside here, you can now name that by angle 3. So that's how you name now an angle. It is by vertex, 3 letter, or symbol within the angle. Now, let's have another one. Now, let's go with the classification of angles. Now, before we go with the classification of angles, let's look at now those following. So, we have now acute, right, obtuse, and reflex. Now, when we say acute, that is, the angle should be less than 90. So, any measure less than 90. Here, x should be equal to 90. Now, in the obtuse, we have now x should be greater than 90 but less than 180. So we read that as the angle should be x is greater than 90 but less than 180. So technically, those are the first 3 where we look at it in the Euclidean geometry. However, in the non-Euclidean geometry, we have now what we call x should be greater than 180 but less than 360. So we'll work that out on that. However, in some other definition, it's just making it greater than 180. Okay, that's how you now define now a classification of angles. So for example, let's have this one. Let me write now different kinds of angles. We'll work that out. First one, we have now 45, 97, 185, and then 204. So normally they have degrees. Other unit of measurement for angle is known to be the radian. So let's have this one. So 45, that is acute. 97, that is obtuse. This is reflex. And then there's also reflex angle. Now, when we look at that, assuming we have now an angle, we can rewrite that as this kind of angle. So 45 degrees. So it is, when you have a standard, if they are perpendicular, this is just a 45, the half. So that is just an assumption. Now, remember, if we have now 97, we could have it like this one. Remember, this is now 97. Now, if you have now, remember that this is 90, it's just merely like this one. But it's a little bit bigger. So in an assumption. Now, a reflex of 185, so that would be turning out looking like this one. That's 185. Now, if you're looking now on a perpendicularity, remember that this is 180 and then it would have more than, a little bit more than, so the angle will lead you. That's why it is required to look at now a reflex angle. No. Remember that the reflex angle should have an arrowhead so that you would know where it would be located. So this is the angle using this one to have now. So when it comes to 204, so again, in your assumption, remember that this is 90, this is 180. So 180 looks like this one. 204 would be looking like this one until here. So this is now 204. So if I'm having that, it would look like this one and then this one. This is 204 degrees. That's how you look at the classification of angles. Hoping you learned something with this video. Thank you very much.